by what standards do you make up your moral compass? As in, how do you know what's right or wrong? A lot of people don't even consider this question. They just go through life doing what they're doing because they know that to be the case. But for me, I sort of ruminate on this question. How do I know what's right and wrong? And when I step back, I start to deconstruct, well, what determines what's right or wrong? It's likely a construct of the religion of our society, of my parents, of my upbringing, right? What I believe to be right and wrong is a product of my time. I'm a massive fan of history, and I know that if you put someone now in the past and, same genetics, same birth parents, but you raise them in a household in a different time or in a different place, their morals, how they view the world, the way that they reframe things that are happening would be different. So I'm sort of drawing on the concept here of moral relativism. Why does it feel that the way we do things now, whoever's listening to this, because your views will be different than mine, but how you're doing life, what you think is right or wrong, happens to be the right or wrong? That's just not the case. But unfortunately, the world has this way of self-confirming, because you'll associate with people that have very similar views to you. And when someone goes against that, your whole group will demean them and badmouth them and bag them. But to them, their whole group is doing that to you, right? You'll both think you're right. In fact, you both are right. If we talk about it from a relativistic perspective, you could do something that's completely opposite to what they're doing and both think you're right. This concept plagues me, because then it goes, well, okay, is there a way to determine an ultimate truth? Is there a way to determine what is truly right or truly wrong? And there's some arguments down this path. If you're religious, you'll go down the religious path of following whatever your God dictates. But unfortunately, if you were raised in a time or a place and you weren't exposed to your certain belief system, are you now a sinner? Are you now not moral? Right? If you're a Christian and if you're a Christian now, but you were raised in a Muslim country, or you were raised in a tribal country, or you were raised somewhere that was atheistic, and you were never exposed to the concept of Christendom, or alternatively, you were raised with a different religious belief, and then someone says, hey, convert to Christianity, you're gonna be like, yeah, but that's not right based on what I believe, based on my culture, my history, my past, and all of the mythos associated with where we are and what we're doing in our society, right? You would judge what you currently believe to be wrong based on what you'd be believing in that time. So comparing what you believe as the bedrock doesn't quite sit well with me. So then I go down the other path of, well, surely there's something to do with suffering, in the sense that if my actions cause less or more suffering, I should move towards taking the actions and doing the things that reduce suffering in general. This is sort of utilitarian. It's the only way that I can really see. It's like, okay, if we could distill morals and ethics and all of this stuff, what is bad? Most likely it's suffering. So therefore, it seems likely that I should do actions that reduce suffering. But now there's a whole plethora of issues that opens up. Is short-term suffering that will avert long-term suffering, is that okay to do? Or should we avoid all suffering together? Who am I to judge? And how can I judge someone else's level of suffering? Is it possible that what I view as suffering itself is swayed by my past and my opinions? Probably. I mean, take something as simple as pain. Pain is suffering, therefore pain is bad. But I know that when I exercise, I know that when I train, I know that when I go through some suffering mentally, that I come out stronger. So therefore, is that suffering good or bad suffering? Do you see how it's really hard here to just sort of distill what is right or what is wrong? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I'm some amoral monster that can't make a decision. If I see something, bad happening, I will and have done, stepped in and tried to stop it or do my best to try and avert the situation and make a stand and all of that sort of stuff. Because in the moment, it's like, well, this is what my past has caused me to believe, and I'll do it. There's this quote that's saying, when the barbarians are at the gate, the time to philosophize is over. You need to act, right? So if push comes to shove, I will be able to determine what's right and wrong. But if I'm given time to think about it like this, like now, things are a little bit more murky. Things don't sit well in these little boxes of, well, I believed this and now this comes from my past, this comes from my parents, this comes from my religion, this comes from the society that we're raised in, this comes from the time we're raised in. And I can really start to deconstruct why I think certain things. If you consider the people in your life and yourself, and consider how you would have been taken and how those people would have been taken in medieval England. There's a bit of a joke going around saying that if you wouldn't have been burnt by the church, are you really living, right? The idea being that morals and our relativistic beliefs have come so far in the past that what's looked upon as a free and fun and enjoyable life for the most extent would probably have got you killed in medieval Europe. Same person, different society, completely different morals. Do you know what I mean? Like if we take that down to a specific example, in Australia, in the West, there's no full expectation or like societal demand that you marry. You can sleep with people out of wedlock. That's fine. Obviously people might judge, but it's not a crime. You're not literally getting stoned for it. Things have changed. The activity is the same, but how we respond to it and how we believe about it has changed. You see this in our time. We've lived through a feminist revolution that's continuing. We're living through a sexuality and a gender revolution. All of these things that, as we see them happening, there's a lot of push and pull. Racism, slavery, all of these sort of stuff. We're living in changing times. And there's always this grasp to the present, as in, well, when I was growing up, this is what we believed. And I think that's why there's a lot of conservative people that are sort of going, oh, I'm not embracing these changes because it's different to what they grew up. If you grew up and racism in a place where racism was the norm and you viewed other people of a different skin color or race or whatever as different, as lower, as evil, as whatever, it's going to be very hard for you to change that view. Same thing for sexuality, same thing for all of these issues that I'm talking about. Is it possible to change those views? 100%. But you got to remember that you're fighting against basically your programming, right? There's another little joke saying that when you have a kid, you can make them hate the people you hate, right? Now, that's a little bit sort of crude or crass, but it's so true. With my son, I'm conditioning him to believe and do and act in the way I do. Now, obviously, I'm trying to make him open-hearted and lovely and warm and all of that sort of stuff, but he looks to me and then he responds in the same way. He's 3 and he's picking up on what I do as the norm. It's only going to be when he gets older that he'll go, okay, well, my dad did this. What do I actually feel? Do I actually think that what he did was good? There's no secret that I will say to him, hey, eat meat, it makes you strong. Hey, exercise, it's amazing for you. Do X, Y, Z because I believe them. So I'm purposely trying to indoctrinate him into what I think is a good worldview. Now, part of my worldview based on all this philosophizing is, hey, read a lot. Get a lot of different opinions. When he's old enough to understand, I'll be like, hey, I'm just one person. Now, when you're living with me and we want to go through society and live in society in a way that's, congruent, you have to follow, the general rules of society in the house. However, it's also on you to think widely, think broadly. Are the rules of society suitable? Do you agree with them? If you don't, what's a good course of action? On this topic, I see people pushing for and talking about an anarchist revolution. There's crazy people that go down these deep, dark paths on every topic, and they see stuff happening in other countries where there's open revolt, and they're sort of pushing for it here. And it's like, do you really understand? Like, I can see that you're displeasured with what's going on for whatever reason, but do you really think that open revolt's the right answer? That's up to them to think morally if they think that's the case. I can tell you from study of history and just simple logic, anarchy, the crimes and the general suffering that will arise from an anarchist state would be exponentially worse than not feeling that your particular sexuality is being represented enough in the media, or having to work a couple of extra hours to pay off your home loan, right? You can be displeasured, but let's really think about what the most beneficial to you and to society's ways are to push for the change you're after. The whole point of this is to get you thinking, to get me thinking, to sort of muse on this concept of moral subjectivism, moral relativism. How do we know that what I think is right? Based on what? Based on what particular thing am I judging that you're right or you're wrong, or that this is good or this is bad, or this should be done more or this should be done less? These are the things that I start to think about, because then it helps me to step back and detach from the prior programming. It's something that I'm encouraging people to do so, because it allows you to make different choices. I want to finish on a little bit of the choice here that I've made in my life. I realized I didn't like my work, and then I tried a different full-time work. I didn't like that. Then I stepped back and go, okay, well, society expects you to work full-time. Do I want to? Do I think that full-time work is suitable for me? And I came to the conclusion that no, you actually can have, 3, 4, 5, 6 part-time jobs. It's a different sort of stress, but for me, for my brain, that suits. But I had to step back from societal programming to be able to view that. Now, some people look at that and not say that it's wrong, but they'll say that there's issue because they've been looking at it through the lens of what they've been raised to believe by their parents, by society, by what they've seen working. But I'm sort of living evidence that you can consider other options and make it work. Yeah? I'm going to try and put out a video once per day. So another bit of knowledge video every day. So if you like what I'm doing here, please like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, comment below and let me know what you want me to talk about. Cheers.